Okay, so we are starting our new unit. It's a geometry unit. We're splitting it up into actually two parts. So the first part of our geometry unit is part A. It's just going to be dealing with like angles and their relationships and then cross sections. So we're actually going to be testing very quickly on this unit. Most likely not next week because it is a very short week next week, but the week after we'll probably be testing then on this. Yes. Huh? Because you have your February break starts next week on Thursday, so you'll be missing Thursday, Friday, and then the following Monday. So we'll probably test that following week on like a Friday. That way it also gives time for the kids who are absent today from Jekyll. They'll be able to catch up with the stuff. But we're only going to be testing on cross sections and angle relationships. So it's a very, very quick portion. The second part of geometry is going to cover a lot more extensive stuff. So it'll cover circles, area, volume, and surface area. Okay, so you'll notice that for our warm-up, it's equations, even though we're in geometry, is because you need to use equations a lot in our geometry unit. So you'll be having to get used to solving for missing measurements. We started off with our warm-up just being one-step equations. So for problem number 1, who can tell me what they got for the value of x? Camila? 9. Not 9. Isaac? 19. Okay, so if we notice that 5 is a negative, so the inverse operation of a negative 5 is to go ahead and add 5 to both sides. So we should add 5 to both sides, and we're going to get x is equal to 19. Okay, what about for problem number 2? What did we get, Grace? 15. Okay, so we have 3/5 x is equal to 9. What we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides by 3/5. So we're going to take 9 and we're going to divide it by 3/5, and that's going to give us 15, x equaling 15. Okay, for problem number 3, what did we get? Jadlyn? Negative 17. Okay, so we're going to, we have an addition of a negative 2, but instead of the negative 2, we're going to go ahead and add the 2 to both sides. And that's going to give us x is equal to negative 17. And then for our last one, problem number 4. Jessica? Negative 3.12. Good. So instead of dividing by 2.4, we're going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2.4. And that'll give us x equaling negative 3.12. Okay, so some very simple, basic one-step equations that we're focusing on for today. We will be getting into some more extensive two-step equations or multi-step equations as well as we continue with our angle relationships. But for today, we want to focus on what type of relationships exist. So we have 3 major types that we're focusing on for today. And again, to be in a relationship, if you're in a relationship, there has to be at least 2 people involved, you and somebody else. You could also have relationships that are called friendships. So friendships, you have a larger group of people involved. So it's the same thing with angle relationships. Angle relationships have to have at least 2 angles involved in order for there to be a relationship that exists. If it's a complementary relationship, complementary angles mean that you're going to take the sum of 2 or more. It has to be at least 2, but it could also be 3, 4, 5, 6, 20 angles, and that sum has to equal 90 degrees. Now remember, if we talk about a sum means that you're going to go ahead and add them together. Taking the sum means that you are adding or combining them together. Now when we're looking at complementary angles are going to look like an L shape when they're formed together. It's because they're creating that right angle. So you'll see inside of here we have that little right angle notation. That box inside of it indicates that it's a right angle. And if I were to say, hey, this small angle inside here is x and this other one we're calling it y, then that means if I were to take x and add y, it would be equal to 90 degrees. That's what makes them complementary. Neither one of them is exactly 90 degrees. They're both smaller than 90 degrees, but the combination of them together is going to form a 90-degree angle. Now, let's say that y was equal to 47 degrees. If y was equal to 47 degrees, then I could replace that value of y with a 47, and then I could just go ahead and solve. I could say, hey, x plus 47 is equal to 90. And then in order for me to solve for x, all I would have to do is subtract 47, like we did in our warm-up, and we would get that x is going to be equal to 43 degrees. So you can use angle relationships to be able to solve for missing values. Now we also have the relationship of supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are also going to have a sum of 2 or more angles, and its sum is going to equal 180 degrees this time. So supplementary angles look like a straight line when you piece the angles together, when you pair those angles up. So let's say that this was angle B and this is angle A. Then all I have to do is take the value of A and B and add them together, and that's going to equal 180 degrees. So when I combine those two angles together, it forms a straight line, which is 180 degrees. Now, let's say that angle B was equal to 132 degrees. Then all I would do is replace the value of angle B with 132, and then I would solve that one-step equation. I could just subtract 132 from both sides and get that the value of angle A is going to be equal to 48 degrees. Now, a lot of students get complementary and supplementary confused with each other. When they get onto a quiz or on a test, they're always like, oh, complementary, is that the 180 or is that the 90? And they get confused. So think about it in an alphabetical order. If I am talking about the alphabet, which word would come first in the dictionary? Complementary or supplementary? Complementary, because right, the letter C comes before the letter S. So C is going to go first, S is going to go second, if we're putting them in order. Now, same thing with the degrees. Which degree would come first? 90 degrees or 180 degrees? 90, right? 90 degrees is going to come first. 180 degrees is going to come second. So alphabetically they're in order, and numerically they're in order. So that helps you to kind of remember them. Another mechanism that one of my students used years ago is they said, if I tell you that you are always right, then I'm giving you a compliment. If I say you are always right, I'm giving you a compliment. So they were able to remember that complementary is going to form a right angle. Everybody good? Okay, so come up with some kind of mechanism that works best for you, or you can use one of the two that I just provided. All right, then we've got our third angle relationship. Our third angle relationship is called vertical angles. So vertical angles are formed by intersecting lines. They have to be intersecting lines to be able to create vertical relationships. And the most important thing to remember about these is that these angles are congruent, which means they are equal to each other. So here I have a series of intersecting lines, and I know that this angle right here, I'm going to put a little knot on it, is going to be equal or congruent to the angle directly across from it. What I mean by directly across is if I'm inside of this angle and I create a straight line that goes to the vertex or the center point of those intersecting lines and continue going in a straight path, I will be at its vertical relationship. I cannot curve in order to get to another angle. Okay? It has to create a straight, direct path across through the vertex to get to its vertical angle relationship. That means also that the angle right here on this left side, which I'm going to put a double knot in, is congruent or vertical to the angle over here on the right side. They are also vertical angle pairs. So let's say that this left side happened to be the values, x minus 10, and this right side's angle measurement was 50 degrees. Then my vertical angle relationship indicates that I can take x minus 10 and set it equal to 50 degrees because they are congruent to each other. They are equal to each other. They're supposed to be the exact same size. So I can create my equation, x minus 10 is equal to 50, and then I can solve from there. I would add 10 to both sides and get that the value of x in this situation is 60. Okay, so these are the three kind of relationships that we are primarily focusing on for today. Go ahead and turn your paper on over to the back. So what we're going to do, each one of these questions is going to ask you what relationship is being displayed, what would the equation be that you could form based off of the relationship, and then solve for the value that's missing, solve for the missing value of x. So for problem number 1, what relationship is this? Is it complementary, supplementary, or vertical? Isaac? Complementary. Okay, this is a complementary angle relationship. It forms that right angle. So we can go ahead and write down complementary. Haley? Thank you. Okay, so based off of the fact that this is a complementary angle relationship, what equation can I create with these two angles? What would the equation look like? Mackenzie? Very good. 73 plus x equals 90, or you could put x plus 73 is equal to 90, as long as you have the two angles being added together and it's set equal to 90 degrees. Then we can go ahead and solve that equation. So we have x plus 73 is equal to 90. All I need to do is subtract 73 from both sides, and I'll get that the value of x is going to be 17. Okay, I want you guys to go ahead and do that for problems 2 through 7. Okay, the last page has problems like that as well. You're going to identify the relationship, you're going to identify what the equation should be, and then you're going to solve the equation. All right, let's go ahead and go over this for problem number 2. What's the relationship, guys? Go ahead and say it out loud. Supplementary, right? We do have a supplementary relationship that's being formed here. It does form that right angle. Okay, what is the equation going to be? Isaac? X plus 118 equals 180. Good. So we get x plus 118 is equal to 180 because 180 is a right angle, or is a straight angle. And then Io, what did you get for the value of x? X equals 62. Good. All you have to do when solving this equation is subtract 118 from both sides, and we get x is equal to 62. All right, what about for problem number 3? What is the relationship going to be? Oh, I made a mistake here. Fix this. Put x plus 9. I'm so sorry. Fix that. X plus 9 should be that measurement. So what's the relationship for problem number 3? Ariana? Huh? Vertical angles, right? It does form that intersecting lines. So we do have a vertical angle relationship. They are vertical. What's the equation going to be? Mackenzie? Good. X plus 9 is going to be equal to 52. Okay, because we have x plus 9 and 52, they are congruent. And then when we solve it, x plus 9 equaling 52, if we solve it, all we would have to do is subtract 9 from both sides. And we're going to get x is equal to 43. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're using those relationship definitions in order to be able to solve for the next measurement. All right, let's go ahead and turn it to problem 4. Problem 4, what's the relationship? Supplementary. Problem 4 is supplementary. It forms that straight line. Kevin, what's the equation going to look like since they are supplementary? Good. 130 plus x, or x plus 130 is equal to 180. Okay, so x plus 130 is equal to 180, and then Kevin, I think you already told us what the answer would be. He said it was 50, right? Yeah, which is fine. It's good. You got ahead. So you subtract 130 from both sides, and you would get that x is going to be equal to 50 degrees. Okay? All right, what about the relationship for problem 5? What is that? Complementary, right? Forms that L shape. Forms that little L. Mason, what's the equation going to be? Good. X plus 62 is equal to 90. And again, you could put 62 plus the x, it's fine. I usually just like to have my variable going first. It's just a preference. Okay, and what will x equal in this case, guys? 28. Yeah, if we subtract the 62 from both sides, we're going to get x is equal to 28 degrees. Okay, trying to get through these as quickly as we can before we go to lunch. All right, what about problem number 6? What's the relationship? Complementary. Io, what's the equation going to look like? Very good. X plus the 37 is going to be equal to 90. It's complementary. Complementary means that when you add them together, it'll equal 90 degrees. Okay, and then when we solve x plus 37 equals 90, how much are we going to get? 53. Good, because we would subtract 37 from both sides, and we'd get x is equal to 53. Okay, and the last one, what's the relationship, Jadelyn? Vertical. Okay, so here is our vertical angle relationship. Okay, so what's the equation going to look like in that sense? Fahim, what's the equation going to be? If they're vertical. Good, m plus 20 is equal to 100. Vertical angles mean that they are equal to each other. So then when we solve, what's the value of m going to be? 80, right? We're going to subtract the 20 from both sides, and we'll get m is equal to 80. All right. And that's it.